Guam's legislature has requested access to an unclassified report from the U.S. Defense Department. The report dives into a proposed 360 defense system and the impacts of long-term missile testing on Guam. On Monday, Speaker Therese Telahe called for the resolution, and Pacific Center for Island Security Chair Robert Underwood testified during the hearing, echoing the call for transparency. Alicia Froon spoke with Mr. Underwood about why it's critical for Guamanians to get their hands on this report.
This report is really a comprehensive look at a number of issues. One is the viability of the proposed, what is called the Enhanced Integrated Air Missile Defense System for Guam, which is a multi-billion-dollar effort being developed by the U.S. military to provide a kind of shield, what they call a 360-degree shield around Guam. Whether that is really viable, whether it's feasible, and if it is feasible, how long will it take? The Lincoln Labs is supposed to take a look at that issue. Lincoln Labs is also supposed to take a look at the impact of this development on the society of Guam, on housing issues and economic issues and whatever disjunctures come out as a result of this multi-billion-dollar effort. So in order for us to assess the ongoing activities of the military, it is absolutely critical that there be some transparency. This is supposed to be an external review. And of course, the only way that you can hold people accountable is if you have some kind of transparency. Now, they may argue, and I'm sure they will argue, that they have to eliminate those parts of the report which are related to security concerns or what is loosely labeled classified information. However, that could be done very quickly. And of course, it would be curious if things like the socio-economic impact on Guam, such as housing, would be seen as classified information. This is what is impacting the island directly. The Guam Legislature, as does the Pacific Center for Island Security, is eager to see the report so that we can respond appropriately.
Was this report ever supposed to be publicized, or are the calls for it to be brought forward, particularly considering that submissions will close in August for the feedback on proposed missile testing on Guam?
Yeah, well, it's only sort of loosely connected to the missile testing on Guam because that's a separate issue. But obviously, we need to know the entire construct and the entire scientific assessment of the viability of the whole structure. So the whole structure is being analyzed. And then along comes an item which just came up roughly a month ago, that they're going to do some missile testing on Guam. And that was not part of the original thinking. So now I think we feel, or many of us feel, like we're being nickeled and dimed, or they're bringing forth elements of it in bits and pieces so that they can pass kind of quick scrutiny and muster, and we'll be able to not comment on it fully. Because the overarching issue is whether this system is actually feasible as well as desirable, and what are the impacts on the island. And absent that information, how can we responsibly respond to this proposed multi-billion-dollar effort?
I think for a lot of people, they'll be wondering, why haven't we heard from the US military on this, and we're still yet to have comment from them. But the basics are yet to be answered. Why do people have to potentially evacuate their homes? Tests are they doing? What is happening? And what does this defence system look like? None of those questions have been answered. And would you say those are the most pressing questions? Is there anything you'd want to add to that?
Yeah. The most pressing questions relative to the immediate effort to start testing later on this year the system is that, because they have issued a letter to some landowners saying, it's a very generic letter. Interestingly, they start off by saying half a day, it's a moral greeting, and then they proceed to say, we're anticipating having some missile testing and debris might fall on your property, so it would be prudent for you to leave the property. And so, it's like, well, which landowners are being affected by this? What's the overall plan? What has been the experience of this kind of testing in other communities? Does this mean that they're anticipating 2 tests a year for the next 10 years? Well, given the nature of those kinds of activities, they could issue another statement a few months from now saying, well, we've decided to do 4 tests a year, or we've decided to do 5 tests a year. There's no conversation that emanates from this and no set agreements that emanate from this. So that's the feeling that it's a kind of like a quicksand feeling about, well, we step into it, and then before you know it, we're subsumed by it.
MIT Lincoln Lab and the US military have been approached for comment.